I look forward to these every week now, and I have something really special this week that I really want to show. And I don't know if I want to do it first or if I want to wait a couple minutes. You know what? I can't wait. I have to show this off. I've been excited about this all week long. Let me get it over here. This is the Amaryllis that I've been waiting to bloom. And check this out. This is absolutely beautiful. Look at these blooms. Look at the coloration. Just this beautiful blending of white and pink gives you that kind of that peachy color. Look at that. So this is one stalk. This Amaryllis is not the one that I thought was blooming. I thought this was going to be magic green, and this is not magic green. I have to look up exactly which one this is because I have so many of them. But look at this bloom. I think this bloom is actually more impressive. Now the other one that I have, the other Amaryllis that I had that bloomed earlier this year, 2 stalks on that one, and each stalk was about 1 meter long, right at 3 feet, right? It was a really tall. But as far as the blousy, beautiful appearance of this one, it's hard to beat this bloom. And this has 4. It went up 1 stalk, and there's 4 blooms, each pointing in each direction, which is why you end up with this beautiful bloom head that just, it's just glowing. You know, it bloomed earlier this week. It was in the middle of the week it bloomed. And I almost jumped back on live just to show, because I said, oh, will the bloom hold till Sunday? And it did. It did hold until Sunday. It's just a little gone over, just a little bit. I'm starting to see just the tip of the curls. So these blooms tend to last a really long time. That's the other reason I love the Amaryllis, because what other flower can give you this? What other flower looks like this when it blooms? Now, I'm a huge fan of roses, which of course is not an indoor plant. Roses are outdoor, and I love roses. Now, pound for pound, a rose bush is really hard to beat, because if you have a rose that blooms once, or it's a reblooming rose. I love David Austin roses, which is a hybridizer breeder here in the UK. David Austin, Peterbilt's, both of those are some of the best rose breeders that I'm aware of, and I've visited both gardens, and they both produce phenomenal roses. Now, David Austin produces a lot of roses that are repeat blooming roses. So if you buy a rose bush and you plant it outside, you end up with something that is truly beautiful, because it blooms. And think about it, pound for pound, the rose bush will have multiple blooms across of it, and then across the entire bush. And then if it blooms again, if it's a reblooming, it'll bloom again, kind of that it blooms in the springtime, and then that fall it could bloom a smaller time, bloom again. Not quite as many blooms, but for one plant, few plants give you as many blooms as what a rose can give you. So for outdoor plants, roses sits right there at the top. Hi, how you doing? Life with Mina Bina. I hope I said that right. But as far as what indoor plants can give you, and I don't think that there are many that can give you a bloom that is more beautiful than this. The wonderful thing about Amaryllis is that it comes in multiple colors. I have some that are more peachy. This is really this is just pink, right? It has this white with these faint pink stripes in it. That's beautiful. And this white is kind of glowing from what I can tell. It's kind of glowing on the screen, but it is absolutely beautiful. I was so excited about this. And I'm going to say what I say all the time, which is never throw away your Amaryllis bulb. This bulb, I don't think was purchased this year. I bought this a couple years ago. It's bloomed for me before. You set it, keep it for a year. Next year, sometime or another, it does this again. If you plan to put them into dormancy, you can plan those blooms to bloom around the holiday season. That's why you see them around the holiday season. You can do that. I don't care when they bloom. Some will bloom around the holiday season. This one, you bloomed right. This one bloomed right after the holidays. Both cases, good for me. Where is everyone else? Well, I jumped on live a little late this week, and so I may have missed a lot of people. So it's kind of on me. But yeah, look at this. Beautiful. And coming out of the pot, I don't know if you can see it. Look at that. There's a little leaf, which is telling me that I'm not going to do it right now. After this bloom goes over, I'm going to have to take this out, because this is telling me that there is another bulb, because That's what these blooms do. Amaryllis, they create little bulblets. So it's a bulb, it looks like an onion, not an onion family, it looks like an onion. And it make a little offshoot of another little bulb on the side, and that bulb will continue to grow. And this little leaf right here is telling me that there's another little bulb in there that needs to be separated, and I can put it in its own pot. So next year, it may take a couple years for that bulb to get big enough to bloom. So I will have this one and then another one. So I'll have two that looks like this. I'll show you what one of those little blooms looks like. Let me set this to the side. Here's another amaryllis. And this little bloom right here came from the bottom of one called Magic Green. This is another little one, Magic Green, and it's gonna bloom, look very similar to the other one. I love the ones that have the double petals, really blousy looks. I love that, just petals overflowing all over the place. Look at this little one here. I just put this, I'm gonna replant this real quick. But this is, I call this like a free plant, right? This was attached on the side of the main bulb. Like this is the main bulb. This grew off the side of it. I just popped it off, and it wasn't green at the time. It was pale because it was underground. Sat there, see this nice little tap root coming off of it. I'm gonna get that back into the substrate here. Again, this is all planted in the Cactus Repotting. Get that back in the substrate. But I just wanted to show you what one of those small little bubblets looks like. And those are phenomenal because you get more plant and really not much more work for you. You just continue to take care of it the way you were taking care of it before. And there you go. So I have here also, I would like to show this. This is some leca. I've been waiting on this to get in, and here I have it. Now I've been planting everything in the Cactus pond. I love pond. I love this substrate. This is what almost all my indoor plants are planted in. Just nice little, it's gravelly, small, fine pebbles. You do have to kind of be careful because they're kind of small and they're fine. This is premium clay pebbles, normally formerly people call that leca. And you want to rinse this off before you use it. So I'm not going to use it to pot up with tonight because I don't have time to rinse. You want to get all those fines. Rinse it, get all those fines off of it. But it's also another medium that people use in semi-hydroponics. And I use everything I'm growing is all in these semi-hydroponic pots. I'm not going to use this tonight, but I just wanted to show it to you. It's heavy, right? It's really heavy. So it will provide a wonderful substrate for my plants when I decide what I want to put in it. Semi-hydroponic is how I do everything here, which is typically this kind of a pot. Put this in the bottom. I'll set this up really quick because I will repot something pretty quickly here. You know, I love these semi-hydroponic pots. I've done this before, but I'll do another one. It has this nice meter in it that allows me to be able to keep a very accurate reading of how much moisture is in the pot. This little meter, see that? Goes up and down based on the water level. Put that in the bottom of the pot, and then you add your substrate. For me, I typically use here, this pond. I'm gonna pour this in. This bag's almost empty. Okay. I have another bag of that. But I want to do this one a little bit differently. I have some pond in here, but I also want to make sure that I increase the drainage. So I want to add a little bit of perlite, which is a volcanic mineral, and it's really, really light. It's very, you may see it in a pot, blend it into your normal soils. It's very fine volcanic rock, and what it does is provides a lot of substrate and aeration, creates space for that. May have a little bit too much, but I want to blend those in together. Yeah, that's a little too much. I don't want quite that much in there. I'll take a little bit of this back out. Okay. There we go. Blend those in together. And I'm blending all this together because I'm preparing a home for this. Nice little cactus. It's a barrel cactus, very common cactus, easy to find, easy to grow. I've had this one for a little while. But what I want to do is I want to get it out of this pot and I want to put it into a semi-hydroponic pot. I'm not going to work with that just yet. I'm going to continue to prepare this substrate. You feel like a bit of a chemist because here some bacteria is going to be added in. These bacteria function very similar to, this is a bacillus strain, multiple bacillus strain bacteria. Excuse me. Function very similar to this, which is a fungi. And both are going to have a similar function where they're going to attach to the root hairs of the plant and help transport nutrients out of the soil substrate and into the plant. So it's going to be really great for the plant. All it really does is just increases the ability of the plant to uptake nutrients, and that'll help with growth. You should have better growth and so big bags and pretty heavy. But let's get, there we go. Okay, so that's as much as I want to put in the pot right now before I put the plant in there. So we can set the pot to the side and come back to this. This is getting really tricky because what I like to do is take all that soil off the bottom of the plant. But you have to get really touchy with the cactus to do that. Cacti, since it's just one of them. And these are gloves I normally use when working with a fireplace, but cactus, whew, I would not want to touch this barehanded. All right, let's take a look at the roots. Roots look good. Nice coloration on there. You could tell though, there we go, that they haven't reached a point to where I'd say I need to repot this. If I was growing this and didn't plan on changing out the substrate, I would say, okay, I don't see any roots starting to spiral. It doesn't appear to be what's called root bound, where it's just a bald mass of roots. But I'm still going to start to work this substrate out because I want to switch substrates. I'm trying to be careful with this. I'm going to do it this way. Pretty dry. Let it dry out so it'll be easier to remove the soil from it. And again, we're just going to remove the soil and repot it into the pond, and then I will have this in a semi-hydroponic pot. Now, because it's a cactus, so it doesn't need a lot of moisture. You know, you really want this to have the ability to dry out pretty good. You don't want to keep that pot with too much moisture sitting on there. That's not good for the cactus. They don't like to sit in soil that retains a lot of moisture. That's why I added that extra perlite to it to try. I do want to retain moisture, but I also want to make sure that I don't hold too much water. I want it to have a loose and light substrate that's very well aerated, and that's best for the plant because the type of substrate that this come out of naturally is a bit free flowing. Oh, got poked. Even with this glove, which is a pretty heavy glove, still got poked. Now I have kids, so because I have kids, I don't tend to have a lot of cactus because, you know, kids and cactus. I remember when I was a kid, my dad has a lot of barrel cactus and other cactus. And kids just, for some reason, can't keep their hands off the darn things. And the reason I bought this one is because you look at those thorns, they're big. Does that mean it won't poke the kids? Of course it'll poke them. You know, I have a couple twins, they're only like one. And it'll poke them. I keep this up high. But I wanted to get something that if it did poke them, it'll poke them and they'll have the ability to pull their little hands back. Some cactus have really, really fine thorns, right? Really small thorns. And those are the dickens, because if you get any of that in those thorns in your hand, they're kind of hard to see to remove. So I said, let me get a cactus, because I did want to add one to the overall, indoor plant family that I have growing here, right? But I wanted to get one that had bigger thorns that would it would poke the kids, and the kids would have the ability to retreat, vice poke the kids, and then they have a whole lot of thorns stuck into their hands. I figured that just wouldn't be good. All right, this soil is coming off really well. The roots all still look good. Just working with this, trying to be gentle, not too harsh, because I don't want to be too hard on the roots. Again, when you're repotting a plant, it's gonna be a little weird, but nice smell. You shouldn't smell anything but clean, earthy vegetation. This is pretty dry, but if you pull your plant out and you're getting a lot of sour smells, a lot of bad smells, that could easily mean that you have a plant that has root rot, which is likely a symptom of you potentially overwatering. So you don't want to make sure you're not overwatering your plants, because if you do, you end up with root rot, and that's not good for a plant. Now I have seen specimens of this that, oh my goodness, bigger than a basketball, we could say about a half a meter across. These can get incredibly big and can be very long-lived. Now, I'm not going to say specifically that this particular variety is, but just with the common name of barrel cactus, they can get pretty big and it can live a very, very long time. I've had this one for about a year and a half. As you can see, this is what it looks like on the bottom there. Which is nice. But you have to be very careful, because even on this bottom part, you think, oh, it's safe, I can put my hands there. No, don't put your hands down there. That still has thorns into the soil pointing down. So it'll get you. If you're going to be dealing with a cactus, then I suggest heavy gloves. These are heavy leather gloves, again, for working with fire. But they work really well in this capacity also. Okay. I think that's enough of the soil removed to where I won't have any problem with it retaining moisture or creating a problem for the plant. There we go. Let me get these little pieces off. Again, roots look good, healthy. There we go. All right. And just kind of make a hole in the center of my pot. Get all these roots. Here's the pot here. Make a hole in the center, down through the pond and perlite mixture, which I think and it has the mycorrhizal fungi in there and that bacteria, which I think both are really good for, again, increasing the ability of the plant to extract nutrients out of the soil substrate, which in this case is pond. All right. Okay. One more on this side here. And now what I'm going to do is, the plant is a little covered right now, and that's okay, because I'm going to do this little trick. Plant's a little covered, right? It's a little too low down in here, but that's fine. I want the substrate to kind of be down around it, so I'm going to then just kind of get it, just slowly pull it up very carefully, because one, I want to protect the plant, and two, I also want to protect my fingers. Just kind of work it up, and as I work it up, what's happening is the soil substrate is compressing down around that root, around the roots. Just kind of shake it there. And that is compressing around the roots, and there it is, sitting at what I like to leave a little rim around the pot. And you could take this a little higher, but this is a little over an inch, almost not quite an inch and a half around the rim of the pot. But I think that's it. It has a little bit of substrate stuck to it, a little bit of perlite. I may get some tweezers and pick that out of there. I may not want to leave that, or it may wash out with water as well. But there we go. I do about one of these a week now. Cactus are really beautiful. They grow in Most of them grow in really arid, dry environments naturally. This whole succulent type look about it, this plant is all shaped and designed to capture and hold and retain moisture. So when it rains, it's kind of hard to make it out. But you see that, how it has, looks like it's very ribbed. What the intent is for the plant, raindrops will hit this and it will be it'll flow down those ribs of the plant down to the roots. So the shape of the plant is all about gathering that moisture and retaining it. And you know they grow in those arid environments. You cut it open, which I will not do here, and it's all liquid on the inside because it's retaining that moisture. It survives off of moisture retention. Say that clearly. It survives off of moisture retention. That's how it has come to grow and evolve. I'm going to add water to this because I just repotted it. You saw how dry that soil was before I repotted it, and it looked totally fine. It's totally fine. So it's in a semi-hydroponic pot, but I'm still going to make sure that I don't add too much water to this. Don't water this very often. It is a cactus. They don't like wet feet. Wet feet is a term that people use often, talk about saying standing in water, right? Plants don't like to stand in water. A lot of them don't like wet feet. There are some that do. Lilies and some other plants that grow, say, on the around, hold on, I'll show you a plant that likes having wet feet. Give me just a second. Now this plant loves having wet feet. I actually leave it sitting in a tray of water. This originated from the Carolinas and peat bogs, and this is a carnivorous plant. This is a pitcher plant. Could actually, Sarracenia, I could take that out. This is a pitcher plant. And here in the UK, they have hybridized them. They work with them extensively to get you these beautiful, phenomenal colorations. You know, it looks like veins in there, right? It looks just alive and fleshy. The way this plant works is it secretes what looks like nectar, so to speak, around the rim of the pitcher, and flies, things that can fly or crawl, will get in there, fall down in there, and then they will die, can't get out, and the plant then absorbs the nutrients from the insect that fell into the pitcher. So it's a pitcher plant. It is a carnivorous plant. They grow in very low nutrient environments. That's why they evolved to be able to extract nutrients out of the insects and small bugs and things that get in there, because they come from low nutrient environments. This plant here comes from a low water environment. It evolved to support itself in an environment that doesn't have a lot of water. This, I have to keep it sitting in a tray of water at all times because it comes out of a wet, boggy type environment. If I let this dry out, it's beautiful, but it'll die pretty quickly. The water that I use is deionized water. I don't even use any type of tap water because the nutrients that's in your tap water, the lead, the minerals in your tap water can build up and concentrate in the water around this plant and it'll kill it. So I use deionized water that has had all those things, nutrients extracted out of it. You could use also rainwater. Natural rainwater will work. You could collect the rainwater, but if you don't use deionized, I would suggest rainwater. Rainwater is what it has in a natural environment, but low nutrient water, not tap water, not chlorinated water, it will kill this plant. This one's looking really beautiful. I like it. I haven't repotted it yet. And again, because it comes from such a low nutrient environment, you can't just stick it in any old type of soil. I use the Lacusa pond. The pond would not work for this because the pond has fertilizer in it. This has to remain in a low nutrient environment. Likes wet feet, doesn't like a lot of nutrients. What am I talking about here? This likes low water, not so particular about the nutrients, you don't want to add too much. Each plant has its own specific growing conditions, and you have to know what the growing conditions are for that plant. What type of environment did it come out of naturally? And that's what you decide to try to put it, and you try to replicate that indoors, if you're growing this plant indoors. If you're growing it outside, you also have to think about replicating the environment that the plant comes out of naturally. And that's something that a lot of people, I don't think they necessarily consider that when they buy a plant. They say, oh, it's pretty, but do you have the right growing conditions? Typically plants, and it's definitely in the US, here in the UK as well, they have a tag and it tells you low light, high light, and it tells you about the light requirements for the plant. But it doesn't always go into great detail about the soil requirements or how much moisture the plant likes. So you have to do a little bit of research. You know, luckily we have Google. You jump on Google, jump on whatever search engine you like, put in the plant name, and you know, there's Google and AI answers, and it tells you what the plant requirements are, and you try to replicate those, match it as close as you can. I love these. I'm gonna have and look, there's a lot of little pictures. See those new ones? Look at all those little new ones around in there. So this plant is ready to explode in size. It's ready to double again in size. It is actually a perennial. Has a little bulb in there, and I didn't set this one outside. Next year, I'm gonna let it go through the cycle to go dormant. I'm not gonna let it go dormant this year. We're already in the middle of winter. I think it would be too harsh for me to try to do it, but I'll set this outside and let this go dormant, and then in the spring it comes back. So this year, this will go straight through, right through the summer, and just keep it going in the fall. I'll put this into dormancy. But likes wet feet. Actually have to keep it in a tray with water in it at all times. Likes dry feet, does not want to sit in water. Would be very unhappy and would likely die on you pretty quickly if you leave it sitting in water. Two plants with vastly different growing environments, especially related to water and also soil substrate, because you can't use the same soil substrates either. Okay, it's gonna be a little bit short this week here. Before we end, I want to go back to the pride and joy. Look at this. This is why I grow Amaryllis. I say it all the time. I talk about this plant. It's one of my favorite because it can produce these blooms, and that is just beautiful, blousy, colorful, and it's in your face. And this bloom, it may still be here next week, right? So it bloomed, say Tuesday, it is Sunday. It will probably carry through into next week. By next Sunday, this may still look good. And by that point, it's starting to get a little, there'll be 2 solid weeks of holding those flower heads on, and it may not look quite as good, but boy, does it look good today. All right, it's gonna be a bit of a short live. I've kind of covered a broad spectrum. I showed you an Amaryllis, which has some really unique growing conditions. They're very easy. It's a perennial bulb. Stick it in some soil, keep it, and let it throw out its strappy leaves. Here you see the leaves coming up. After this dies down, those leaves are gonna grow out. Make sure this gets plenty of sun. You can set it outside in the summer, bring it back in the fall, and this will be beautiful for you and will produce this same flower head again next year. I've had some that bloom twice a year. That's my Amaryllis, repotted up, a beautiful little barrel cactus here. I love these cactus. This one is, I picked it again because it has big thorns. Kids touch it, it's gonna hurt them. It's a cactus, it's gonna hurt. But the thorns are so big that if it sticks them, even if it sticks in her hand, I can get it and take it out. A lot of cactus has very fine thorns. Be careful of those. You get those little thorns in your fingers, you can't even see them hardly, and they'll be in there and they will hurt you like the dickens. Lastly, an American pitcher plant. Absolutely beautiful. I love the coloration of these. I'm going to cover this a bit more in another live, but I just wanted to show it off to you, mainly because this plant likes wet feet. Have to keep that in water at all times. Just sitting in a little tray of water, can never let it dry out. So it doesn't look wet here, but it is wet on the inside. I can feel there's moisture there. I'm going to add more water to it. All right, guys, short this week, but if you ever have any questions, drop down in the comments and leave any questions for me. I have a broad variety of plants. I even have a banana tree growing in here. I'm gonna show that to you. A lot of different plants growing, indoor and outdoor. I have some outdoor plants that I brought in. I have a jalapeno pepper growing here through the winter. But yeah, a lot of plants, some of my favorites, and I love to talk about them. All right, that's it for this. I'll try to do these every Sunday. I jump in around 7:30-ish is what I'm aiming for, British Standard Time. If you could jump on the live with me, that'd be great. If not, you can always watch these on the channel later on because I post them back to the channel so you can still see them. It's not like it's a live and it goes away. It's a live that you can watch later on if you don't catch it live with me. Until next time, take care.